Beyond our world, there's another world. And it's right here, on my face. Welcome. This is Horizon. Think of me as your guide / self-appointed spokes avatar, here to show you around. You know, Horizon is filled with possibilities. You can play stuff, make stuff, fly stuff. Whoa! Really love the stash, Stuart.
What up, Stuart?
Wait, I want a mustache. Horizon isn't about rules or limits or pants or people telling you not to fly an airplane while drinking your fresh ground, fair trade, French press morning coffee through a curly straw. Isn't that right, Debbie? Mm-hmm. It's about getting out there and trying new things, making your mark, making friends with an Australian named Mark.
Oh, actually, I'm from New Zealand. Yeah.
And you can even build a world of your own, like laser tag moon landing. Or this islandy place with these cutie patooties. Boop. In Horizon, the world is your lobster.
Isn't it oyster?
That too. So come, join us. A never-ending, ever-changing world beyond your world is waiting! Debbie gets it!
Wow.
Hi, thank you guys so much for coming today. This panel is called Facebook's Future in Social VR, primarily because we could not put on the agenda that we wanted to tell you more about Facebook Horizon until we had a chance to announce it yesterday. So today we will have a chance to hear from some of the product leaders that have been working on Facebook Horizon, which is our new social world in VR where people can explore, play, create, and connect with others. And so this will be a great opportunity to learn a little bit more about what Horizon is, what you can do there, and how the world was built from the people who made it. So just to introduce our great panel that we have today, we have Rachel Cross, who is our head of art for AR/VR experiences. You can applaud for each of them.
Just Rachel. Applaud for Rachel.
Ari Grant, our engineering director. Jeff Lynn, product director. And Eric Romo, director of product management. And I am Megan Fitzgerald. I lead our content marketing for AR/VR, and really excited to get a chance to work with these great folks on bringing Horizon to life. So just to get things started, I think you guys come from such different backgrounds and bring so much different experience to this. But Ari, you've been at Facebook a really long time. Maybe you can start by telling us, why is Facebook building this product?
Yeah, so I've been at Facebook for 7.5 years, so it has been quite a while. You know, Facebook's mission is to, bring people together and give them the tools to create community. And so when we look at, the emerging platforms and technologies that are coming, specifically VR, we think it gives people an opportunity to be even closer and, form tighter relationships, and, social presence really makes those experiences great. And so as Facebook looks to build out tools for different communities, we really thought we could use this platform to build tools that would let a lot more communities hang out together and, spend time in what feels like the same place. At Facebook, one of the things we've noticed is some of the most popular Facebook groups are where people will actually organize once a year to meet up in real life, and that there's a lot of desire for people who have these shared interests to get together. And so we saw this as a great opportunity to bring that to a lot more people, as part of our mission.
Great. And Eric, you've been here since the days when we were working on Facebook Spaces. You obviously have a lot of experience in social VR. Tell us a little bit about, just kind of building on Ari's point, what are some of the things we've learned from Facebook from our previous social experiences that are coming together in Horizon?
Yeah, I think, you look at something like Spaces, and I think what it did a really good job of is trying to strike this balance, especially in avatars, around how do I give the user the ability to be recognizable, to feel like they have a sense of personalization of the avatar, but yet not give them so much detail that we're in this weird place in the uncanny valley where I find the avatar creepy. And I think Spaces in particular was a really good exercise for showing that it's possible to strike this balance of something that's aesthetically pleasing, it looks good on a 2D screen, but yet also is something that I feel like represents me. The team also worked on Oculus Rooms, which was started in the prehistoric ages of Gear VR. And with Rooms, I think we really saw that it really helps these social interactions to have a context or something that we're trying to communicate around and about while we're there together. And so with Rooms, you had media co-watching and these board games that were introduced. And so I think we tried to evolve Horizon based on the learning we got from both of those products. And I think what you see is trying to really capture the sense of social presence and the ability to feel like we're inhabiting the same space. And at the same time giving people the tools to create these interactive experiences that we can have and share together. So, bringing together this social presence and the ability to have these great experiences together.
Great, and Rachel and Jeff, like you guys have joined us with strong backgrounds in your individual areas. Like, what was it about this project and this team that made you want to join to be a part of building a product like Horizon?
For me, it was, the challenge of, creating something that is something new and something really for people to represent themselves. And so, Spaces for me, when I joined, it really was building the foundation of our avatar system. And so we learned a lot from those learnings of how to design and build avatars in VR. And we learned the importance of representation and likability and diversity. And so we really took those learnings to the avatars that you see today in Horizon.
Yeah, for me, I spent a huge part of my career shipping just AAA games. And I actually like how early we are in exploring what social means in VR. And we recently had a playtest where, of course, we're making fun game-like experiences and social experiences in Horizon. But in a recent playtest, a team put in a new avatar interaction system. Basically, different ways you could high-five each other, like up here, down here, sideways, like whatever. The kicker was they actually added additional effects where the more consecutive high fives you did with the same person, the more amazing the sound effects, the visual effects, so on and so forth. And we actually had a playtest where instead of testing the actual game, they ended up like on the side, like playing patty cake. And I thought it was like a really interesting example of kind of, we're not quite sure, we haven't defined yet what it truly means to be social and present in VR. And I'm really excited the team is spending this much time trying to perfect that, trying to make that great, and also understand other social rituals across social VR.
Great, and kind of just going off from there, we've got this pre-alpha build. We've got the team in there, they're working in there, we're in there every day. And Jeff, as the lead designer, maybe you can start by just kind of walking us through in this early stage, like what is the user experience like? When somebody first jumps into Horizon today, like what is that new user experience for them?
We're still figuring it out. No, so we're very early in the process. And as many people know who have shipped like these products before, we usually try to figure out onboarding and like Nux experiences kind of near the tail end of the dev cycle. And one of the things we're actually exploring right now that's super important is the importance of social norms. And so when you first come into this space, how do we establish social norms as a part of the onboarding experience to set the right culture, the right kind of positivity so that it carries through the whole life cycle of the product? Anybody who's worked in games before understands that if you actually ship the product and it gets into a really toxic or negative culture, it's really hard to fix after the fact. And so we're spending a lot of time now being very intentional of how do we set the right social norms from day one.
Great, and setting norms is great, but like let's take a step back. Like in your guys' own words as the people building this product, like what is Horizon? What is this experience that we're building here?
For me, it's going to be, I think it's going to be something really special in VR. I think it's going to be a really unique experience for our users. It's a place where you can meet people, you can meet new people, meet your friends, your family, do something together. You can build things, you can explore, you can do all kinds of creations of your own worlds. And so I think that's going to be really unique and really exciting.
Yeah, for me, I see a lot of current social networks where you really kind of talk outside of the experience. Here's photos of the event, or I wish you were there, and it's a lot of kind of catching each other up. And I'm really excited about how VR and a lot of the new immersive experiences we're seeing allow people to make new memories together. And so I'm excited for people to take the different things they're interested in and do them with other people. And if the interest they have isn't there, to make a place, make an experience where they can gather those that have an interest and really kind of make it where, a lot of us growing up maybe had a place nearby that was special, whether it was a skate park or a YMCA or an arcade. And so I'm excited for everybody to have basically that next door at all times.
And I think a critical part of Horizon is that the experience and that synchronous social experience really spans outside of VR as well. So, if we look at the things that Megan talked about in the keynote of bridging the gap from we've had this experience, we've shared this place together, but we really want to then find a way to coordinate our next experience, or find a way to chat about the experience we just had, or find a way to share the memories that we created there together, and really closing a loop of we're going to interact on the asynchronous surfaces we have in our pocket every day, and that's going to cause us to want to go back into VR. And so that loop is not just beneficial for Horizon because these are developer services that we're obviously giving to everybody, but we feel it's a really important part of closing that really the cycle of what socialization is.
So all of these things are like the things you can do there, the ways you get there, but it's as much about who you are as what you're doing. So Rachel, your team has been thinking very deeply about how people represent themselves. So can you tell us a little bit about the avatar system?
Sure. So our avatars are fully customizable. People can tailor their look the way they see themselves or they want other people to see them. They'll also have the choice to be able to change their hair, their color, their accessories, and represent themselves to their likeness so that they're recognizable to their friends and their family. Our avatars will also be expressive, and they'll be able to show emotions and their personalities, their moods, and have avatar-to-avatar interactions such as a high five or a fist bump.
Everybody just really wants to know whether they don't have any legs. Maybe
Well, I think the thing about the current design team and art team, we're really working on what does it mean to be expressive and embody an avatar. And we're being very intentional about it because early on, when we actually first started this process, we actually heard a lot of feedback from earlier versions of avatar art direction that we really wanted to address. So for example, we heard from a lot of women actually that when they saw the original first couple versions of avatars, they didn't feel comfortable embodying them. They felt like the avatars were a little too skinny or the wrists were a little too skinny, and we weren't embracing diverse body types and thinking about things like power dynamics of different heights of avatars. And so we're being super intentional about it this time and really thinking deeply through these problems. And when it comes to legs, we want to make it feel really good that one, it's not one-to-one motion, we're not tracking your actual body. So when we emulate motion, when we actually represent you, it has to feel great, and we're not quite there yet. We just need more time to figure that part out.
Great, and so you are kind of showing up in this space, you've got an avatar to represent yourself. The team is working on some great things to do there. I think yesterday we saw some in the video of the types of activities that people can do, and maybe Ari, you can tell us a little bit about some of the content that is going to be there that our team's building from day one.
Yeah, so we're building a number of activities directly ourselves that we're going to basically seed it with to bring people in and create a lot of fun. We also have the world building experience, so we're creating some worlds in that to hopefully help set the bar and inspire folks of here's what you can create. So we want to get some of those started so people will also come in and hopefully be inspired and create. And from there though, we're hoping that a lot of people will start to create their own experiences and it will grow from there. We're looking to continue to make our own kind of first party experiences as we explore mechanics and other new ideas, but we look to hopefully even try to bring those to creators as well to keep opening up. So we'll start with a few experiences ourselves, built both some directly by us in engines and some in the world builder, and then we'll just keep iterating that over time.
Yeah, we want to have these first-party pieces of content to really help bring people into the product, help them understand what the types of things you can do in Horizon, and also to inspire that creative community. So to give them some inspiration of what kind of things might they want to build. It also inspires us on the tools that we give to creators. So a really good example of this is we've been showing off a first-party destination called Wing Strikers in the product this week, and this is basically a game that the inspiration was from a member of our team who thought, hey, remember when you were a kid? Oh, he's right there. He thought, remember when you were a kid, you had a model airplane or a toy airplane, and you used to pick it up and fly it around your room and pretend like you were flying it. And we had a hackathon, I guess it was about a year ago or something like that. And he found this great mechanic for picking up what feels like a toy airplane in VR and flying it around. And the initial tests, I remember, the team was just delighted flying it around a landscape. It didn't matter if there was a game loop. It didn't really matter if there was any kind of other effect. effects. It just felt amazing to pick this thing up and fly around and talk to people while you were doing it. And so, since then, fast forward, we now have this, competitive capture the flag. Jeff can use all the appropriate game
aerial
words.
Experience.
Aerial experience. That really is a good indicator of what you can do in VR and what's great to do in VR. And we're excited about finding those types of mechanics and then eventually enabling creators to use those same mechanics in their experience. And so you can think about that loop of, are we finding this inspiration, and are we then allowing other people or giving other people the power to use it?
I'd love to switch over, and I think that's a great segue to how was this product actually built? And I happen to know that the team is incredibly diverse. There are people of all kinds of different backgrounds, from Facebook, from games, from really a wide variety. And maybe Ari, we can start with you. Talk a little bit about some of the range of backgrounds, how that's come together and impacted the product as it's been built.
Yeah, it's definitely been really interesting. Building a product like this, we have people from almost anywhere you can imagine. We have folks who have worked in film, animation, typical games, more casual mobile games, Facebook social networks, large-scale back-end systems. And so, bringing all these folks together to build what is a social product and kind of is half Facebook, half game in its nature. There were a lot of interesting, scaling questions for us to figure out. Of all of these industries have different definitions of what's a designer, what's a producer, what's a PM, which do engineering do, and so we kind of had to figure all that, how to knit that together into a singular culture. And it's not something that we've necessarily fully figured out. It reminds me of the early days of mobile, when it's I need a mobile engineer, and people are like, what's a mobile engineer? I don't know, we'll figure it out. And so I think we're really in that stage of trying to figure out how to combine these skills, and so something we're iterating every day and just trying to figure out how to integrate all of these different pieces. I think the coolest thing though has been trying to find what the strengths are of each of these different cultures and bring them all together to try to maximize what is hopefully a new culture we're building.
Yeah, and for the art side, there is a lot of 3D content in Horizon, and so that was, I still remember the day when, this idea was pitched to myself and the art director, and we're sitting there going, oh my God, that's a lot of work, So we built and we hired and built and structured an art team around similar to what a game studio is, and so we hired a lot of people with diverse backgrounds and experiences, so specialization, and so we hired concept artists, environment artists, UI artists, VFX, the whole range of a whole 3D pipeline. And these are roles that typically you don't find at Facebook, these specialized roles, but we're committed to making sure that we fulfill the vision of Horizon.
Yeah, Rachel and I have had a pretty fun journey over the past year. Just over a year ago when I joined and I heard the pitch, my first thought was, well, we need level designers, we need game designers, systems designers, and we actually brought a couple in, and during the first interview process, the traditional kind of product design team came to me and said, we have no idea how to evaluate these people. How do we even interview a game designer? And a bunch of PMs came up and said, game designers don't know how to draw? Why do we need them? So it's been really actually fun kind of integrating game design into Facebook. Yeah. And for me, it's kind of going back to, if I could build a game design team from scratch, I've really enjoyed that process at Facebook.
Mm-hmm. So let's go a little bit more into the actual decisions that need to be made to build a product like this. And maybe Eric, you can speak to how do we, we're building a social network here in VR, a social world, but that is going to require a lot of performance power. Bringing a lot of people together is a tough challenge. How do we evaluate the trade-offs between building for large spaces and building these high-performant areas in VR?
Yeah, I think the first thing is to just acknowledge what all the knobs and levers are that you potentially have for that problem, right? So, you think about something like we've been showing off the Skyway, which is sort of the public space where people come into the product and then figure out where they want to go from there. And you can imagine that being, wanting it to be from a look and feel perspective, bustling and vibrant and having enough energy in it. At the same time, you want it to work on an Oculus Quest, which is, fundamentally a mobile device, and you have some limitations on how many avatars you could think about there. On the avatar side, you want them to be expressive and emotive and have enough detail that they have likeness. But at the same time, you need to do it on a Quest, right? So it's finding the balance of, what do you want to put in that space? What's the feeling you want to space? What do you want to accomplish in it? With the practical realities of the horsepower that we're operating under. I think it's really it's fair to say we don't know for every situation what the right balance is, right? And this is part of why we want to go relatively slowly early next year with beta, is to understand, okay, this many people, it feels like, what did somebody say, a crowded subway car, and this many people, it feels like it's a ghost town, so we really need to figure out where on that spectrum we want to be. But I think it's first like getting into the culture of the team and understanding of, yeah, we actually don't have the answer to that question yet, and that's okay, because we want to learn and we want to test as we go and learn what works.
The nice thing is when we were first getting started, we were able to look at our experience on spaces, rooms, and venues. Spaces and rooms are very much more on the intimate side, small group of really close proximity, and venues is at the other end of the spectrum of very large scale crowds. And so we were able to look at both the technical and product solutions and things we had learned there. And so as we've started trying to figure out how we can balance those to create as many experiences that do live across that spectrum. But given that what really stands out in VR is that close and personal interaction, we, to Eric's point, started off on Quest with avatars, with environments, and really started off, can we make it feel good with another person in environments, on a mobile device, as well as also looking at, are we going to be able to push a higher limit of avatars over time? And as Eric said, we're still figuring out the levers to do so, but the products we've built previously have given us a leg up on starting to figure this out.
And you mentioned that you started on Quest, but this is a product that's going to be on Quest and Rift when we come out with the beta next year. How did that change any of the thinking, or did that influence the way that the team was building the product?
So yeah, Quest definitely is where we set a lot of the technical lines in the sand from the beginning of what's our performance bar, and how much can we fit, and as we figured out performance budgets and what our art assets can do, we really started off with Quest because we knew we really wanted to work on Quest, and we figured going from Quest upward was going to be easier than kind of Rift downward from a production perspective. We're still trying to figure out how to do both of them and how to maximize both, but we really want to make sure that people, on any of the headsets can get together and hang out, and that you don't get in a situation where, you feel left out which headset you're on, while also not making feel like the experience they have is compromising because of the headset. And that's just a constant balance we're going to keep iterating.
Mm-hmm. I think what's interesting is actually, if you think about Wing Strikers, it's a game actually that, because we were Quest first and thought about, hey, what's a native Quest experience that could really thrive with the freedom of not having a tether. And so actually the feeling of flying a paper plane like that and just turning as you would and turning your body, it feels great on the Quest. If we actually had a different perspective, I think we would have not come up with that particular mechanic. And actually we're doing the backwards thing now. It feels great on Quest. How do we make it feel amazing on the Rift as well? And so we've kind of taken that approach, and that's kind of how Wing Strikers was born as well.
Mm-hmm. And for Jeff in particular, you've come from games, but all of you guys, I think, have had some experience building these products that rely on iteration and having to try many things until we get it right. So just talk a little bit about the team's development process. Like, how do we create these moments where we're iterating and we're having an opportunity to learn as we build something that people will enjoy?
I guess I could start. For anybody working on these types of products, it's all about iteration. Even I would say, I'm looking at the team right now working on Wing Strikers. Even 2 to 4 weeks ago, before OC6, we knew we were going to show Wing Strikers, and we were debating level design. Are we there yet? Does it feel too small? Does it feel spacious? Are we encouraging interdependency and teamwork mechanics? And we actually introduced pretty big changes to the gameplay right before this actual conference. We changed the number of players in the actual game. We added big mechanics like you can pass the flag to each other, which completely opened the map and made us question all our level design all over again. But I think you really have to just keep iterating until you get to something great.
Yeah, and
yeah. No, so for us it was we start with concept usually in art, and that doesn't necessarily translate to VR. And so iteration was super, super important for us, because we want, you come in and it's we have this checklist, is the world immersive? Do we have the right parallax? Do we have our sight lines right? Are we using the shapes that we need so that they're readable in the distance? There's all these principles that we have to think about, and you don't often you get that in a 2D,
Yeah, and we've also been, trying to learn into as many of the tools as possible we have at our disposal. We've done a bunch of concept art in Quill. It's really cool to see the artists go into Quill, paint a 3D scene, do it very quickly, and then jump in and walk around the space and get a feel for it. And they can quickly change the lighting, move stuff around. We've also concepted a bunch of our spaces in our world builder. So that's actually been super cool to see a bunch of artists just going in, hey, here's the space, put on a headset, test it out. And then, kind of the development foundation side, as Eric mentioned, Wingstriker started with a hackathon a year ago. So one thing we've tried to do is make sure we really are looking at the platform as early as possible. So last year we had, I think, 2 large hackathons where we really said to the team, go wild on our infrastructure, build whatever you want. And we saw some pretty cool prototypes, so many that we were a little overwhelmed of how do we select from this. But then we also got a lot of feedback on, hey, here's how easy the infrastructure is to build on, here's where it works well, here's where it falls over. And so we're constantly trying to iterate on our infrastructure and tooling to hopefully go faster. And one of the tricky things is with how early VR is and still how new Quest is, for instance. I think we're all, probably even a lot of you as well, are figuring out what's the quickest way to iterate, how can you update an art asset and get it in headset as quickly as possible. And I think kind of all of us are still just figuring that out.
And I think all of this is really built upon the philosophical mission that we don't yet know all the answers, right? That this space is early, that interaction in social VR is early, that there's so much promise for figuring out what are the things that we want to do together in these spaces, that what we need to do is just admit, hey, there's a lot of exploration to do. We need to figure out how to explore it as quickly as possible on the engine design and art side. And that's not going to stop when we ship the product, right? This is something that I think that the Facebook DNA really brings to VR, which is saying, hey, that we're on a journey here of all trying to figure this out together. And what we need to do to accomplish that journey is to find ways to learn really fast.
Oh, I think on the point of things we know we want to learn a lot about with this product is around how we build really positive and welcoming communities. And so I know you guys have all been thinking a lot in each of your disciplines about how we build for safety, for people to feel comfortable and control of their experience. Jeff, maybe you can tell us a little bit about some of the in-product designs that are about enabling those positive interactions.
Yeah, we've been digging into this really deeply over the last couple months, and one of the themes that we hear in a lot of the focus groups and research is the concept of always being in control. And so imagine you're in a social space and maybe somebody's harassing you and so on and so forth. You want to be able to immediately take control of that situation and feel like you're in control again. And so there's a feature we're working on that basically at any point in Horizon, regardless of what experience you're in, with just a click, you can freeze or pause the entire experience. It also quiets down the VoIP, it quiets down all the ambient noise and so on and so forth, and it just creates a really calm environment. And from this environment, you can choose to mute, block, report, escalate, so on and so forth. But just this immediate one-click access to such a safe environment has proven to be testing pretty well recently. And so we're digging more and thinking about more features like that can always give you that sense of you're always in control.
Yeah, on the balance side of the reactive controls, I think the team also spends a lot of time on the proactive setting of culture. And so this is everything from how do you think about the onboarding flows and the new user experience and what messaging you receive there? What do you see of the product in the display page? When do you encounter the community standards in the product, and how do we make sure that those are easy to understand and digest? Who do you meet when you go into the product? So we intend to have human guides in the product that are helping to set the culture that we think is going to be welcoming. And so there's both the how do I quickly extricate myself from these situations that I find that are uncomfortable, but also how do I make sure that I'm trying to create the experiences here that are comfortable for everyone, as comfortable as possible.
Talk a little bit more about the guides. It's a pretty critical part of the experience. You described it as sort of studying the culture. Who are these people? How do they interact with the people who are in the space?
Yeah, so you can think about them as locals, as people who are native to this space. They should be your equivalent of a super user, so they know how to do things, though we don't really intend for them to be technical support as it were. They're also there to help you understand how people are how we think people will want to act in that space to keep it welcoming. And so a really good example of this is, are they acting as we think people will want to act there? They're not moderators, so they're not people that are there to stop bad behavior. They're there really to be a part of the community, to be a great welcoming part of the community, but will be people that we employ.
And Rachel, I think when it comes to setting the tone and creating a positive culture, the choices we make on art and the world design play a huge role in that. Talk a little bit about your team's principles around designing a welcoming community through the art style.
Yeah, so we definitely have design principles and simple shapes, forms, silhouettes, because we do want to look at have these views where you are seeing future expansions in the distance. And so a lot of the choices are simple graphic shapes, really a lot of simplicity in our choices with color, shapes. We want it to be welcoming, inviting. We want it to be alive and thriving. And so a lot of these are just things that we carry on when we're building our worlds, as well as we're building our avatars. Our avatars have the same principles, like simple shapes and only adding detail where we need to, because we do want to see the silhouettes in the distance.
We should talk about, there's an early version of the Skyway that we actually worked on with the art team, and it was closer to like a subway. It was like super busy, and it was like things are constantly moving, and some of the early feedback we heard was like, this is like super stressful, and like I don't really like want that stress. And so like we went through all these iterations to land on the current like images you see, where it is more vibrant, it's more welcoming. It kind of sparks curiosity. It's like, hey, I want to go look over there, I want to go explore over here, and less of that like really busy, like high stress environment that some of our earlier versions had.
Yeah, and we also drew our inspiration from like theme parks or city planning, where you have that like hub and spoke model where you have got a center hub, and that's where people meet and congregate, kind of thing. So so that drew a lot of inspiration in a lot of our design and planning.
Yeah,
I had this like really funny conversation a couple of weeks ago with an urban planner that designed a lot of the Facebook offices and headquarters, actually. And he was talking to me about how we always design around transportation, how you locomote. And so cities are designed around vehicles and automotive transportation. Facebook campuses are designed around walking, so on and so forth. And I stared him dead in the eye, and I was like, what if people could teleport? And he kind of like stared at me blankly. He's like, you mean like Star Trek? Like, what do you mean? And I was like, yeah, like you can teleport anywhere in the world, teleport to any friend in the world. Like, how would we design a social space that still encourages social, but you could have this like mode of locomotion? He actually just laughed at me and then said he'll think about it, and he's never gotten back to me.
So that is your challenge now. That's the problem you have
That's
to solve.
our challenge.
Well, I want to switch over to something that's come up a couple of times, which is the world builder. It's such a core component of the experience, and Ari, you are one of our super users early on of the prototype tools we have available. Just give us a little bit of an overview of what these tools are and what they enable.
Yeah, so the World Builder is an experience we have that allows people to go into VR and kind of make anything you can imagine. Asterisk, whatever it allows so far, and we'll keep raising the ceiling. But the cool thing is, I earlier in life when I started first learning 3D tools and 3D creation tools, one of the first things you learn is like, okay, how do you move the camera? How do you move geometry on a 2D screen? And even that is like pretty hard to wrap your head around. And so starting off with being able to just move things in 3D space and stretch and scale them, position them. If you can play with building blocks, you can make something in in VR. You can make a dragon. You can make whatever you imagine. And so we started off of making sure that it's really easy and fast to assemble things the way you might in real life, but while being able to really, lean into VR where you can break the laws of physics and you and the other people can be at different sizes. So one may be building detail and one building large things, and really try to look at how quickly can you spin things up. And I think a lot of us in the team are pretty impressed with how short some of the development timelines are for the stuff we build. And then on top of that, we started adding visual scripting so that people can go from what are I think fun destinations to interactive experiences. And we've had people start looking at what if you had a virtual pet, or what if you're on a scavenger hunt adventure quest, or what if this is just a hangout space. And so we've been really trying to get a lot of the folks in the team to spend as much time on the product as possible, and not even putting too much constraints on them and say take a hobbyist mentality, build whatever you want. And I think what we've been seeing is pretty exciting, and we're looking to keep just adding more and more features. And we hope that this can become a place for communities and friends and folks to hang out, where whatever is interesting to you, you can make really whatever you want. When I say whatever you want, we're not trying to replace the large scale game engines. We really want to make this for a place for communities and stuff to do what's fun and exciting for them. And I look at Facebook groups as a metaphor of made it really easy for people to make an online community. And I hope that with that kind of as a metaphor, we can make it easy to make a place, for anyone of really any skill level.
Yeah, I think what I love about it is that you don't have to be an artist to create these beautiful worlds, and we're witnessing that on our team alone. Like we've got designers and engineers and artists really creating these beautiful worlds and just focusing on the construction of building, which is really cool. And so we also have in our in the tool we have a lighting solution that you don't have to worry about the lighting. The lighting is there for you, and it includes like global illumination and the skybox for your ambient or your cube maps, and all of that is you can take it to another level if you do want to light it by we provide you with a list of objects so that you can customize your lighting if you need to. But everything is given for you so that you just have to worry about construction.
Yeah, I think one thing to just add about the spectrum of creators of, if you understood everything Rachel just said, which is a little bit technical, then I think you realize there's a lot of potential there.
Yes.
And if you didn't understand everything Rachel said, you can actually go get all of that without understanding it and still build really cool worlds. And so it's been great to take some what are actually rather advanced rendering and 3D techniques and try to make them as easy as just playing with your hands and making something.
Yeah, you talk about the beautiful, and honestly, they're amazing, these worlds that the engineers and the artists and the designers are making, and then there's the not so beautiful worlds that the marketers are making, but they still turn out pretty nice, and I think that's down to some of the design choices about the primitives and the tools that are available. And I am really excited whenever I'm in there, and I feel really proud of what I make. And Jeff, can you talk a little bit about just some of the design choices we made so that when a less experienced creator makes something, it still feels like it's got some consistency to it and some design principles that even if I don't have it, they come through?
I would actually add that Ari and the engineers are actually one of our key stakeholders and customers of this tool because they're not designers, they're not artists, and we actually really want to focus on what are the bare minimum primitives and shapes and scripting tools that allows engineers to actually create quite artful pieces and quite beautiful worlds. And I actually joke, but the moment I actually realized we kind of passed a hump in the world builder was when Ari started telling me things like, hey, I don't want to go to that meeting, Jeff. Can I just hang out in World Builder? Can I just build more things? And on the design team, we're at a point now where almost everything in the future of Horizon, we're actually prototyping in the World Builder first. People are quickly putting together mock-ups, layouts, levels, basic interactions. And we're using that actually more than any of our other tools that we're used to as designers. And I think that actually is a testament to when we focused on a user that was not a designer and not an artist as our principal and guiding light, it really helped us get the ease of use and barrier of entry down to a pretty good level.
And one other important thing for us, I think, as we were getting the World Builder started, that was kind of a constraint for engineering and design, was making sure worlds look made. I think this was pretty important. When we started looking at much more advanced features, there was feedback we got of, I can't make any of that stuff, or that's too intimidating, or I hope people make cool stuff, see you later kind of style. And so we found that just the more we leaned into simpler shapes, simpler tools, where a good talented artist can take some basic blocks and build really, really impressive things, but it contains the still element of, oh, someone made that, and we found that more people look at it and say, oh, I want to try that, I want to make that. And so I think one of the things we look at a lot of is, when people look at what comes out of our world builder, how quickly do they say, oh, I can't wait to try that. And anytime people say, oh, that looks incredible, but they don't have that response, we then try to see if we can go back to the principles of make it look made, make it look approachable. And we want to balance that with adding more and more complex features over time, but want to start off with that kind of inviting, yes, you can do it appeal.
And Eric, with the way Ari's described this, it sounds like there's going to be a lot of worlds out there. There could be an endless amount, and that's something we hope for. We hope there's lots of exploration, but with all of this content out there, how are people going to discover things to go try?
Yeah, we think about the discovery of these worlds in kind of two ways. One is that when you're in the Skyway, when you're in VR, when you're in Horizon, we want to provide a solution where you feel like you're organically stumbling into these things, that your friends show you them, that they point to them, that there's telepods or places where you can teleport to these worlds inside the world, and you can have this exploration experience, because this is something we hear over and over again from users. What do you want from VR? We want to explore. We want this to be vast. However, we also know that your experience to go into VR, to be in VR, starts before you put the headset on. So, all of us are not wearing headsets right now, as are probably like 99% of people who own headsets. And so we want you to be able to discover this content, and lots of VR content, frankly, on the surface you already have in your pocket on your phone. And so just like we have the ability to discover what your friends are doing through things like the Presence API that we're launching here at OC6, we also want you to be able to discover these worlds on your phone and on the Oculus Companion apps. And so we really, we don't quite know exactly what the ranking system is, or is it likes or votes or whatever yet, but we know that we'll need some way of curating this content, but we know for sure that you'll discover it both organically through VR and on the surfaces in your pocket.
Well, we're almost out of time up here, but I think what I would love to hear from you guys, the closest to this product, is what is something about Horizon and the work that you're doing that just makes you really excited about the future of social VR? What are some of the things that you see kind of pushing the envelope on the way people and communities come together in VR in places like Horizon and across the platform?
So I'm really excited about just the expressive avatars and the social interactions through, just avatar to avatar interaction, like I mentioned before, like the fist bump or the high five, like those experiencing that for me for the first time in VR was really, really cool. To the point where I would just wanted to go around and just kind of high five everybody. And so if you see me on launch, that's the friendly avatar. That's me high fiving everyone. But yeah, I'm excited about that, and just being able, our avatars to be able to express ourselves so that you can recognize your friends and your family who through their representation, how they represent themselves.
Yeah, I'm really excited about the creation aspect, which based on the previous questions is probably a surprise. There's a few of the folks in the team and myself, I think, who, as Jeff was mentioning, just can't get ourselves away from the product. And on nights and weekends, we're constantly creating, in it and messaging each other photos of, look at what I made, oh, how'd you do that? And trying to push each other and egg each other on. And I think really seeing the stuff we're creating, that's a little micro community already starting right there. And, to see that grow, I think will be super exciting. But also connecting that back, to the surfaces, as Eric was mentioning, outside of VR of, on Facebook, we see Facebook groups of people, passing 3D models back and forth as they're building, Burning Man displays or doing architectural work, and, a bunch of other, 3D or style, organization and sharing. And so I think to have the platform for a lot more folks to try to use this, I think when you bring the outside plus creation together, it can hopefully bring a lot of people to have spaces to do stuff together.
I hate to double down on World Builder. But for me, actually, is World Builder too. I mean, before I became a designer, I loved modding, hacking experiences together. When I look at the actual entertainment industry, a lot of the recent genres that are really popular came from modding, right? Like battle royales, tower defense, MOBAs, so on and so forth. And so I'm really excited to see what the community does with the actual tools and what new genres we're going to create. I mean, just in the past day alone, people have come up to me and said, hey, I want to do something with education with Horizon. I'm like, yes, come do that. I want to do something that's more social, not focused on gaming at all. I want to do dating. And so I think we really want the community to explore all of these use cases in our actual tool.
Yeah, the one other thing we hear really consistently from users is, help me find what there is to do in VR and help me find people to do it with. And I think I'm excited about Horizon playing a part in that, but not being all of it, right? So we think about these discovery surfaces outside of VR and discovery inside of VR as finding you places to go in VR and people to do it with. And they don't all have to be in Horizon. You can go hang out in Horizon, find a group of people, and then go watch something in Oculus TV. You can go hang out in Horizon and go play a multiplayer game together. And that for us is success. We just want to find you people and things to do.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. Horizon is launching with a closed beta next year. You can sign up at oculus.com/Facebook Horizon to get an invite for the beta, and we hope to see all of you guys there. Thank you so much to our panel, and enjoy the rest of the show.